When you're starting out with programming, handling just one piece of information, that's pretty straightforward. But what happens when you need to deal with 100 things, or maybe even 1,000? Well, today we're going to unlock a foundational superpower, one that lets you manage entire collections of data all at once. So let's dive right in. Okay, so up to this point, you've probably thought of variables as, well, like little jars, right? You can put one thing in a jar, a number, a word, whatever, and that's it. And hey, that's super useful. But it's got a pretty big limitation. I mean, think about it. You can have a variable called fruit, and maybe it's holding the word apple. Perfect. But what if you have a whole grocery list? You've got apples and bananas and cherries. You can't just stuff all of those into that one little jar, right? No way. You need something bigger. You need a basket. And that basket, that's exactly what we're going to build today in our code. So the big question is, how do we actually build that basket in our code? Well, the answer, believe it or not, comes from a really simple everyday object. And once you see it, this whole concept is just going to click. I'm talking about the humble egg carton. Just think about it for a second. An egg carton is one single container, right? But inside, it's got all these individual numbered slots. And that, my friends, is the perfect way to picture a Python list. It's one container that lets you store a whole bunch of different things together, but you can still grab any single one you want super easily because each one has its own specific spot. Okay, so that's the idea, the analogy. But how do we take that real-world egg carton and turn it into something the computer understands? Let's take a look at the actual code. And there it is. This is a real Python list. Now, notice a couple of really important things here. The whole collection, all our fruits, are wrapped up in those square brackets. And then each item inside is separated by a comma. And just like that, our fruits variable isn't just one jar anymore. It's holding 4 different items. Our basket is officially built. All right, before we go any further, we have to stop and talk about one absolutely crucial rule. Seriously, if you remember nothing else from this, remember this one thing. It's probably the most common trap for beginners, but I promise once you get it, you've got it for life. So let me ask you something. How do we count as humans? We start with 1, right? 1, 2, 3. But what about a computer? How does a computer start counting when it sees a collection of items like our list? It starts with 0, always. This is the crucial point. In the entire world of programming, the very first item in any collection isn't number 1, it's number 0. Always starts at 0. So let's go back to our fruits list and see how this works. That very first slot, the one holding apple, that's not slot number 1. Nope, it's slot number 0. Then banana is at slot 1, cherry is at 2, and mango is at 3. This whole idea has a name. It's called zero-based indexing. So here's where it all connects. That first slot in our egg carton, the computer calls that index 0. And to get that specific item, you just write the name of the list, in this case, fruits, followed by that index number in square brackets. So fruits 0 gets you the apple. The second slot is index 1, so you use 1 to get the banana, and so on. It's simple, but you just have to remember, what we think of as first is always 0 to the computer. Okay, that's a lot of theory. I think the best way to really make this sick is to put it into practice. What do you say? Let's do a super quick test to see if you've got it. All right, here's the setup for our little challenge. Imagine you have this list. It's named colors, and as you can see, it's holding 3 items: red, green, and blue. So here's the question, and it's a simple one. If you want to get the word blue out of this list, what's the number you would need to put inside those square brackets? I'll give you a second to think about it. All right, you got an answer? Let's walk through it together. Remember the rule. We always start counting from 0. So red is at slot 0. Green is next, so that's slot 1. Which means if we follow the pattern, blue has to be at slot. It's 2. The answer is 2. To tell the computer, hey, show me the word blue, you'd write print colors squared 2. Hey, if you got that right, seriously, fantastic job. You have just nailed the single most important concept about lists. So by now you're probably thinking, okay, an egg carton starting at 0, I get it. But you might also be wondering, why is this such a big deal? Why did I call this a superpower at the beginning? Well, here's why. Think about it. A person, you or me, we get tired of doing the same thing over and over again. A computer, it never gets tired. By learning how to store a whole collection of items in one list, you have just taken the first, most critical step toward being able to tell the computer, hey, I want you to do this exact same task for every single item in this entire basket. And that, right there, is the heart of automation. So I'll leave you with a question to think about. Now that you have the tool to store not just 3 or 4, but hundreds or even thousands of items, what's a repetitive task in your life you'd love to automate? That's the real power you've just unlocked with lists. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy